Hey there, my name is Danny Leibrandt, and I'm the founder of Pest Control SEO, where we grow pest control companies with SEO. Today, I have Bradley Benner, a SEO, local SEO specialist and expert. Bradley has been in local SEO for over 15 years, and he is the founder of Treecare HQ, which is a digital marketing agency, specifically local SEO for tree care companies. He's the founder of Semantic Mastery. He's the founder of Semantic Links and Local Fury. So two of those are white label agencies, and then another is a training program for local SEO agencies. So this is one of the top guys in local SEO. So glad to have Bradley on. And yeah, thanks for coming on, Bradley.
Thanks for having me, Danny. Appreciate it, man.
Of course, man. So I wanted to jump back to the beginning of your journey. Where did you initially get started in local SEO?
Well, I'm a former electrical contractor, and back in 2000, I started my contracting company, I think in 2007 or 8, and I was doing it for about a year and a half or 2 years, but I was generating most of my leads I was a subcontractor mainly for like remodeling companies and such. So I would get subcontracted by general contractors to come do electrical work for their projects, and so. At some point, I decided I wanted to generate some of my own work. And so I started doing marketing, but I had learned marketing from years earlier when I was in the real estate business, but it was traditional marketing. So print advertising, direct mail, flyer inserts in newspapers, canvassing neighborhoods, like all kind of traditional guerrilla style marketing. And so I didn't really know digital marketing. I could barely turn on a damn computer when I was doing electrical work. I'm serious. I was not very efficient with computers at all, proficient with computers. But so I started asking some of the contractors that I worked with how they were generating leads for their own business, and most of them that were doing well were getting leads from Google, and they had hired some digital marketing expert or whatever to help them get leads from Google. And so I didn't have the money at the time to really hire anybody, so I just decided to start learning it on my own. And I became absolutely fascinated with local SEO and how to manipulate Google search. So I started I built a site for myself, and then I built a couple of other test sites for other industries that I worked with. One was a carpet cleaning site. I'm not sure why I built that one, to be honest. And then another one was a locksmith site. And so I had three test sites, my own and two others, that I was able to start kind of experimenting and applying what I was learning about local SEO, et cetera. And within about 6 months, I got all three of them ranked at the top of Google. And I was generating leads for my own electrical business, and then generating leads for, well, just like I was generating leads for cleaning jobs, and also locksmiths. And I didn't have any clients; they were just test sites. But so I started contacting carpet cleaners and locksmiths and seeing if they wanted to rent the site from me, what they call the rank and rent model. So I was just building sites and then leasing them out. So once I got those first two sites rented or leased by contractors, I said, man, this is a nice side hustle. So I kept working on SEO for my own business, but then all for generating leads for my own company, but then also started building other home service type contractor websites for other contractors, plumbers. I ended up getting involved with tree service contractors around that time. And so from 2010 until 2012, about March of 2012, I really was just focusing on lead generation, um, building assets. So websites, and in Google at the time it was called Google Places. Now it's Google Business Profile, but at the time it was called Google Places. So I would build websites in WordPress, and then a Google Business or Google Places profile, and then connect the two. And then I would rank them. And once I would get them ranked, then I would contact the contractors in that area that were in that, for that specific industry type. And then I would pitch them on renting the site from me. And I did that and for probably the first year and a half. And then I started selling leads on an individual pay per lead basis. And that's when I got connected with tree service contractors, actually. And so in 2012, I had built up enough of a side income from SEO that it's interesting, but I'm in Virginia, and so that's where I live. And so that's where I started my local SEO services, and everything was in Virginia, in my local area. And but the winters are bad enough or extreme enough in Virginia that home construction and stuff slows down significantly during the winter. And so I went through 2 years of generating a lot of additional income as a side hustle, doing SEO and lead generation for home service contractors. But during the winter, my that additional revenue would decline significantly. And so after 2 seasons of that, I wanted to kind of stabilize that income a little bit more. So I decided to open up an actual agency where I could then pitch local SEO services to other local businesses and then, go under the normal traditional model, which is retainer based services where, a company would just hire me and pay me, $1,000 a month or whatever to get them to rank better in local search. And so that was in 2012. I opened up Big Bamboo Marketing LLC. I still have that corporation today. I've renamed or rebranded as Treecare HQ. I now, over the years, I kind of realized that I really just wanted to work with tree service contractors. People often ask, well, why didn't you go into the electrical industry? And it's because I found that, for SEO services, if I was going to niche down, why not just niche down into electrician services? Because I was a former electrician. I guess once you're an electrician, you're always an electrician. So I'm a recovering electrician, if you can call it that. Um, but because lead generation in the tree service industry was the most lucrative for me, and so I just kind of fell into that. Really, to be honest, I really had no desire to be involved with tree services, but the money was good, and so yeah, I mean, I did. I started my agency in 2012, and probably about 6 months later, I quit doing electrical work altogether because I made enough money at that point between lead generation and traditional retainer-based clients after starting my agency that I had basically replaced the income that I was making from pulling wire and climbing ladders and stuff. And so I decided to kind of go full time in SEO. And then about a year later, and in 2013, we started Semantic Mastery, which is my coaching and consulting company where I teach other people how to do local SEO. And so, from there, it just progressed. Probably around 2019 is when I finally, I thought in my local SEO agency that had niched down because I really just worked with contractors. So service area type businesses, pest control, septic tank or septic service companies, HVAC, plumbers, tree service, roofers, all that kind of stuff. But honestly, that's still a lot of work as an SEO professional. You have to learn all those different industries and the keywords and the vocabulary and what is compelling, what works, what gets results, all that kind of stuff. And so, even though I thought I had kind of niched down to just working with contractors, that wasn't really a niche down. That wasn't niching down. That was still a very, very broad category with a lot of specific industries. And so, finally, after years of constantly working my ass off on trying to get results in various industries, I just decided, why am I doing this? Why don't I just kind of specialize in one industry that I know is lucrative, I know it well. So in 2019, I created a fictitious name or a DBA, doing business as, for my main corporation. So I call my local SEO Treecare HQ. My local SEO agency is called Treecare HQ, is in Treecare headquarters. And so I just niched down to just working with tree service contractors. I still have some legacy clients from other industries that I'm still doing SEO for, but I won't even take on a new client for my own local SEO agency unless they're tree service contractors. Now that made a huge difference in my business because once I did that, then I was really able to start scaling that side of that one particular business. As you mentioned a moment ago, I also have Semantic Mastery, which is my coaching and consulting company. So we kind of really focused in on just teaching local SEO. And then about a year later, well, actually, it was in 2022. So about 2 or 3 years later, I started a link building business, which is where we provide link building services for agencies. So it's a white label link building services for local SEO agencies. So that's, the off-page stuff that we have to do to help local businesses perform better in search. So I started that, and that's been really good for the last 2.5 years. That's actually generates more revenue for me now than even my own local SEO agency does. And then we also started another app, which is specifically for helping to improve organic, maps ranking, which is called Local Fury. And that's, again, another kind of white label type of service. So yeah, I've been at digital marketing for about 15 years and almost exclusively in local SEO. And I just find it fascinating, very passionate about it still. I'm still fascinated with it even all these years later. So as long as I still have an interest in it, I'm going to keep doing it.
Awesome, man. I love that story. And I love that you started out as a contractor yourself. I feel like a lot of guys just jump in the SEO game. They, don't know too much about the trades or anything. And, I wasn't in the trades, but my dad was, all my cousins, all my uncles. I have a lot of family and a lot of people that I know in the trades. So I feel like I can relate to it pretty well. But I love that you were actually in the trades and you were like, no, I'm not getting enough leads. I have to get them myself. And I also love that your story is pretty chronological. It makes sense. It's like you're an electrician, not getting enough leads. Okay, I need to get more leads. And then you found out that that was great. And then you found out that that was really great. So then you can do it for other people, and then you can teach other people to do it. So I really love your story, man.
Thanks, man.
Something I was curious about is you had three websites initially and you got them all ranking super well. How did you do that initially?
Well, back then it was a hell of a lot easier than it is now, that's for sure. So then it was really a lot of that back then was on-page optimization, which was and then it was so easy because you could just stuff keywords into it and it would rank. And then there was, business directory listings or citations, as we often call them. And that was, I mean, that was pretty much the extent of it. It was I kind of fell into the people in the internet marketing world would know of what they call WSOs, which are Warrior Special Offers and things like that. Anyways, it was like this marketplace for make money online and digital marketing products and stuff, where you could buy training like PDFs or so like uh, you know booklets or whatever, video courses and stuff like that, and they were usually very very inexpensive. And so it's really interesting. But when I had started my agency, I had fell into when I was actually probably about a year before I'd started the agency anyway, on some Warrior special offer that was out there. I bought a $7 PDF guide on what was called automatic links, and it showed how to use this app, which is called IFTTT, which stands for if this then that. So IFTTT.com, and it showed how to set up Web 2.0 properties, which are like social media and external blogs like Blogger, Tumblr, WordPress, Weebly, things like that. Social media properties, bookmarking sites, things like that. It would show you how to connect all these to this app called IFTTT, if this then that, which would allow you to automate functions between apps. And so what I learned was from this $7 PDF. I mean, I this guy that created this, his name was David Cossack, and I'll never forget it because I spent $7 on this PDF, and for 4 years, that was the only thing I did in my local SEO agency to get clients. I built these IFTTT syndication networks where I would go out and build 15 to 20 properties that were branded for that specific, company, and then I would link all of them or connect them to the IFTTT app, and then we would use the blog from the main website, the client's website, to just publish content about their products and services in the areas that they served. And so we would just publish blog content, or so articles essentially on their site that would say, roofing services in Fairfax, Virginia, and we would cover, things that we would, that the roofing company would do: roof repair, roof installation, roof inspection, roof cleaning, stuff like that, whatever. And we would just pump out these articles from the blog, and they would automatically syndicate or republish to that branded network of properties that I would create and connect through that IFTTT application. And man, that's all we did. I mean, I swear to God, I built a whole service and system around that. We even ended up the first course that Semantic Mastery ever launched was called IFTTT SEO. And of course, about a year later, we got a letter from a cease and desist letter from their attorneys saying that they were going to sue us for using their name in one of our products because it was trademark infringement. So we ended up changing it to Syndication Academy. But I swear to God, for about the first 4 years of my local SEO agency, that was all I did. Was I built syndication networks. So I did it myself until I got smart and then hired some people and trained them and delegated that work to them. And that's actually how that first training course that Semantic Mastery launched was created, because I literally created the training course to train employees or VAs, virtual assistants, that I had hired to build them for me so that I could, go out and spend more time landing clients instead of building networks. And so once I had developed that training to teach virtual assistants how to do it, we realized that could be a product that we could launch to the SEO or search engine optimization audience, that wanted to do this same type of thing. So anyway, it was great because it was awesome. All we did was build these syndication networks, and we would build links to those network properties. We're just using like link building tools. Back then, all that stuff was safe to use. And then we would just publish content just consistently, and we would just rank. I mean, it was like clockwork. Within 2 months or so, we would rank every single client I touched, and it was much easier back then. It's certainly not that easy now. I wish it was, but that's how I got started, and that's how I got results for clients for many years. Now in 2024, there's a lot more that goes into SEO to get results, but it's actually interesting because in some ways I think it's a little bit easier now to get results in local SEO than it was 2 or 3 years ago, just because the algorithm has changed so much. But it's still a lot more. There's a lot more signals that we have to hit in order to get properties or projects to perform better in local search now than we ever had before. And it seems like the number of signals that we have to um, you know hit the appropriate way, it keeps increasing almost, it seems like, by the day.
Can you expand on that more? Why is it easier now versus back then?
Well, I think it's a little bit easier now than it was 3 or 4 years ago because now the algorithm has changed significantly. It's no longer a keyword-based algorithm. It's what's called an entity-based algorithm. But that's, unless you're an SEO, I don't expect people to understand what that means. So I always describe it as a topic and category-based algorithm as opposed to keyword. So most people think about when they, if you understand even on a very basic level search engine optimization, traditionally and for the ever since really Google's inception and since search engines, but really when Google came onto the scene, it's always been keyword based. Like essentially, you go search for a particular search phrase known as a keyword or a search query, and the way Google, just kind of back up for a minute. Google is nothing but a document retrieval algorithm. It's very advanced, but it is nothing but, at its simplest form, is a document retrieval algorithm. And Google treats web pages as documents. And the titles, so the SEO titles or meta titles of web pages are the document titles. And so the way that Google used to return results was based upon a search query, which was a keyword, and it would go look in its database, its index essentially, and try to identify which documents or pages were the most relevant to that search query based on a lot of factors like keyword density, like how many times the keyword appeared within the content, all that kind of stuff. So but it was very crude. It was a very crude algorithm, and that's why it was so easy to manipulate back then because we could stuff keywords into it, and because the density, the number of times it occurred within the as a ratio of how many words were on the page, the higher the density, the more times it occurred. Then that was one of the ways that we could do it, and rank was just by having higher density. So, anyways, back then it was a lot easier to do stuff, but around 2021, at the end of 2021, somewhere around there is where the Google algorithm changed. It shifted. We're in the semantic web now. Semantic web technologies have been fully adopted by Google. That's just a different way to associate data, right? So like, and semantic web is an entity-based algorithm or entity-based web technology. And what that means is an entity is a person, place, or thing, right? And the way that semantic search technology works is it understands the AI, the artificial intelligence, the machine learning. It understands what an element is or an entity is, a person, place, or thing, and then it determines how those entities relate to each other or associate to each other. And so it has a deeper understanding of what of things now than it did before, where it was just literally a document retrieval system. It's still a document retrieval system, but it's got all these other layers on top, like that are kind of integrated into it now, that has a better understanding. Like because of large language models like ChatGPT, a lot of people will be familiar with ChatGPT, but Google has its own that is integrated into the search algorithm that has now an understanding of human language, primarily in English, because that's how the large language model was trained in English. But so why I bring all that up is because the algorithm shifted about, like I said, around the end of 2021 from a keyword-based algorithm to an entity-based algorithm, which is fully a semantic web kind of technology. And so now if we optimize for topics or categories, we can rank a page so a document that is optimized for the topic or category. And why I say topics or categories is because if you're doing local SEO, you're going to have Google business categories that are assigned to that particular industry. In pest control, I think it's pest control service is the actual Google business category. So that's what I say topic or category optimization. When I talk about category optimization, I'm specifically specifically talking about Google business categories. So that's a maps optimization method. So for ranking in Google Maps. But then for topic optimization, that is for ranking on organic search, which it's very similar to category optimization, but Google created its Google business categories from Wikipedia entities. So entries within Wikipedia. when you go to Wikipedia and you search something like pest control, it's going to be pest little c control. So pest little c control, right? And that's a topic. That's an entity. And so what Google did was created Google business categories from Wikipedia entities. In some cases, it combines two separate entities to create one category. So for example, in pest control service is the category, but the topic is pest control in Wikipedia. But when you combine, but the way that Google created pest control service is there's another entity for service, and service has multiple meanings depending on which context it's used. The context, and there's what they call a disambiguation page in Wikipedia. If you go to Wikipedia and search service, it'll take you to what's called a disambiguation page where it'll show the various versions of service depending on which context it's used, and like the context in which it would be applied to pest control as a pest control service would be service and in parentheses economics. And so if you click on that, you can read the first paragraph of that Wikipedia entry, that says that explains what service as it relates to economics means, and it clearly defines what, like, that's the appropriate kind of version of service if it's going to be combined with something like pest control. Or in my industry, it's tree little less service, tree service, which is the entity for tree and this entity for service economics combined to create tree service. So I know that's a bit advanced, but the reason why I bring all that up is because Google has an understanding of all of the keywords or search queries that are associated with a category or a topic. And so if you optimize for the top level topic or category term, you can, so meaning if you optimize a page, so a document for that, then that page can rank for every single search query that Google already has an understanding of that is associated with that topic or category, even if that keyword's not present on the page. And for most SEOs, especially, you can't teach an old dog new tricks, they say, or whatever. Like, the thing is that even most SEOs that I talk to today that are very experienced have a really hard time unlearning the kind of keyword optimization that they have always done, because most people are still stuck in keyword world, like keyword mode. And by the way, if Google keywords, you can still optimize for keywords, but it's limited in the performance. In other words, if you optimize a document or a page for a specific keyword, that page can only rank for that keyword in close variants of that keyword. So what does that mean? Like tree service, tree services, maybe tree cutting service, things like that are kind of close variants of the seed term or whatever the primary term is. But if you optimize for a topic or a category, you can rank that page for every single search query that Google has an understanding of that's in its database for that topic or category, even if that word is not explicitly mentioned on the page. And so that has been, in my opinion, I've spent 2 years now studying and testing for topic and category optimization, which is entity-based SEO. And I've done that 2 years of testing in the tree service industry. Again, I only work in one industry. Now, because I teach, I also I do a lot of consulting with other SEOs and SEO agencies, et cetera. And so I've been able to, I've been fortunate enough to be able to see how my process and methods that I've discovered and developed in the tree service industry can be applied to other industries, primarily for service area businesses. My assumption is that these concepts will still work for storefront businesses like a dentist office and things like that, but almost exclusively all the projects that I've worked on or had these kind of methods applied to were service area type businesses. And so why I bring all that up is because it's really interesting. What I found is that, sure, some of your pest control listeners will know this. A lot of them probably have sites on the web right now where, like, let's say they do termite control, ant control, roach control, spider control. Let's just use those four. Let's just say that those are the only 4 services they do, right? Termite control, ant control, roach control, spider control. And let's say in their service area, there's 5 locations that they want to target, like 5 city or town names in their specific service area. Well, they'd have 20 pages because they'd have, termite control city 1, termite control city 2, termite control city 3, then roach control or ant control city 1, ant control city 2, ant control city 3. Well, that's redundant. It's bloat. It's duplication. It's not needed. 3 or 4 years ago, yes, that's what we all did in the SEO industry, and it worked. But now that actually causes problems because it's redundant content, it's duplicated content. So all of that now Google kind of demotes the overall site. Like there's something, again, I don't want to get too far into the SEO weeds here, but we had helpful content update was one of Google's. Google rolls out new updates almost weekly or bi-weekly now. And so I have a hard time keeping up with Google updates myself, but some of the bigger, more major updates, which have had significant impact on search performance, and I only work in local SEO, so I don't know how that relates to other types of SEO and other types of projects. But in local, what I found is that the helpful content update, what kind of the Reader's Digest version of this in its simplified terms is Google crawls a site now and it comes up with an overall site quality score. And that quality score is now a multiplier that gets applied to every page on the site. Previous to the helpful content update, Google doesn't rank websites. Google ranks web pages for search queries. Remember, it's a document retrieval algorithm. A web page is a document. So when you do a search query, Google returns documents or pages, not websites. Yes, the page is hosted or published onto a website, but it's still an individual page. It's not a site that ranks, it's a page that ranks. So, at before helpful content update, you could have a junk site, right? Like a site that just it's not optimized well at all, but you could have one page on the site that was optimized to perfection. And now this is theoretical because there's no such thing as perfect optimization. But if there were such a thing as, theoretically, hypothetically, if there were such a thing as a 100% perfectly optimized page, you could have one page on a site that was perfectly optimized and the rest of the site could be absolute garbage. And that one page could rank really well. The rest of the pages wouldn't rank, but that one page could rank really well. Well, now the helpful content update has eliminated that. Because now, even if you had one page on the site that was optimized to perfection, if the overall site quality score was like, let's say 70% or whatever, then Google's going to apply a .7 modifier, multiplied to that, applied to that page. So now that page is only going to be a 70%, optimization rate or whatever. So in other words, it was Google's way of kind of taking, demoting websites that weren't optimized and efficient so that it made it easy for Google to understand who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. I like to reference that often because that's what we should be doing as SEOs to serve our clients better, is to very clearly make it known to Google as to who the business is, what they do, and where they do it in a very efficient way. That because Google, again, if you say that back to that previous example, 4 services with 5 locations, and you now have 20 pages, and you're saying, termite control city 1, termite control city 2, and each one of those pages, go look at all your listeners, go look at your sites now. Unless they're your clients, which you probably know better. But if you look at some of your sites right now and you have that, guys, if you got 1,000 words or 1,500 words or 2,000 words of content about ant control for city 1, and then you've got another page with another 1,500 words about ant control city 2, and then another page 1,500 words ant control city 3, you're saying the same damn thing over and over and over again. That's absolutely unnecessary. It's redundant. It's bloat. It also causes crawl resistance because Google now has a harder time identifying what is the best page for what. And so Google now applies that helpful content update quality score multiplier to every page. And so therefore, if Google crawls your site and thinks there's bloat, redundancy, duplicated content, etc., it's going to lower the overall quality score, and none of those pages are going to perform as good as they should if you just reduce content. And so anyway, going back to what the original question was, how have I applied what I've learned over the last 2 years about topic and category-based optimization? And that is the reduction of pages, content needs, etc. Because really the best thing is if you got 4 services in this example again, so it was termite control, ant control, roach control, and spider control, then you have 4 service pages that are not optimized for any one location. It should be service brand. So, termite control brand. Each one of those pages is just optimized for the service plus brand, and then you optimize that page very thoroughly with descriptions about the service and what to expect when you come out when the contractor goes out to perform that service, etc. All that to meet the intent of the searcher's needs. Like, what is their intent? If you can satisfy that by explaining who you are, how to contact them, and what the process would look like if hired, that satisfies the intent of the searcher's query, and then having separate location pages that are optimized for each of the cities that you want to target within the service area that then are optimized for the top level category and topic term, meaning pest control service city plus brand name in the SEO title of that location page. Then through internal linking. So you only have one location page for each service area location that you want to target, not five or four in the example that I was talking about earlier, where it was city one plus service, city one plus service two. Again, you'd have four location pages for each city when you had four services before. Now you only need one location page. And on that location page, you don't need to have 1,500 words of content or 2,000 words of content. You literally just need to meet the intent of the searcher, which would be who you are, how to contact you, and then if you want more information, here's the products or services that we provide in this area. And that's just internal links that link over to the pages that then thoroughly describe those services. So you don't need to have blocks and walls of text. By the way, you think anybody that needs pest control services is going to read 2,000 words of content on a page about pest control?
Yeah, exactly.
No. They're looking to find, do you do this service? Are you located near me? And how do I contact you? That's all they're looking for. So again, we used to do this because that's what worked, but now we don't have to do that anymore. Yet I still see SEOs all the time. And then they ask me like, I don't understand why this project isn't performing, because you're still optimizing like it was 2020. And like in the last 2 years, the algorithm has changed more than it had in the previous 10 combined. And that is not a joke. So it's like, if you don't change your ways, it's like, I keep doing what I've always done and my results aren't getting any better. Okay. Isn't that the definition of insanity? You know what I mean? So again, just go to kind of wrap all that up. Topic and category based optimization or entity based optimization is a much more efficient way. And if you think about it from Google's standpoint, because of the explosion of content on the web, because of things like ChatGPT and AI writing assistants and everything else, Google's been very public about saying that their servers are overloaded. They cannot keep up with crawling and indexing of the explosion and proliferation of new content on the web. They can't do it. So because of that, part of the reason why this new optimization method or strategy works so well is because it reduces content and it reduces crawl resistance. There's less pages, there's less things for Google to need to process. So if we can very clearly convey to Google who the business is, what they do, and where they do it in an efficient manner, Google will reward that project, that site, and so with better ranking performance. And so I've spent 2 years testing in that kind of that area, and I've found a what I think is the perfect site structure for tree service contractors, and it can be applied to any type of service area business, and it absolutely crushes it. And by the way, just because I say that I think I found the perfect structure doesn't mean I'm not still testing to try to improve it. Because if you understand direct response marketing, you know that whatever your best performing campaign is, that becomes what's called your control. And your sole purpose in life is to beat the control. Well, in SEO, it's very similar. You find your best performing structure, so site structure, configuration, like SEO titles, H1s, headings, like all that kind of stuff. You figure out what performs best. And once that you figured out your best performer, then you go in and duplicate those types of builds and then change one single variable and see, does that create a performance improvement or a decline? If it creates a performance improvement, right, duplicate it a few more times. Does it consistently create a performance improvement? If so, that now becomes the new control, and then you go back to the drawing board, start trying to beat the control again. And so I've spent 2 years working on just tree service sites on topic and category optimization method, and I'm still to this day finding little tweaks that I can make, just tiny little things that cause a performance improvement. And then again, being able to coach others to how to apply that to other types of service area business has just been, it's been really rewarding, because when an SEO, especially one that has to unlearn old habits first, when they finally get it and it clicks and they see the performance improvements that they get, and by the way, it reduces us, Danny and I, we don't have to do near as much work this way because we don't have to create as much content. There's less link building targets because there's less pages. So that it lowers overall overhead costs for maintenance and management. It's just a much more efficient way, both for us as far as work, but also for Google. It's more efficient for Google too. So I know that was very long-winded, man, but hopefully it wasn't over the head of many of your audience.
No, that was awesome, man. Guys, Bradley is the real deal. I think there's so many nuggets in what he just said. I think almost everyone will have to rewind and watch that back because there's a lot of pretty complicated things in there, but all completely valuable. And I completely agree with everything you said. I really like the entity aspect. I feel like a lot of people don't think about that in SEO.
They don't.
It's not keywords. You have to think about the entity as a whole. So the business. And when you're building links, it's not, I'm trying to get a link from a business, but I'm trying to build a connection with another business. So that means also, getting mentions, maybe you go on their podcast or they go on your podcast the same way we're doing here. Like we're building a connection, my entity of Danny Leibrandt and your entity of Bradley Benner, and we're establishing that connection between us. So that's why I love doing the podcast, because I'm establishing this connection with all of the people that I want to have a connection with on Google and show that to Google and all the
Yeah.
search engines. So I'm doing exactly that here. So absolutely love that. You were talking that you basically found the perfect site structure, and I
hmm
know you test a ton, so I know this is no joke. Can you talk a little bit more about what that site structure is for clients?
Yeah, and so again, there's three things when it comes to on-page optimization that we should be hitting, that we should be optimizing for. Like the three primary elements for on-page optimization for local search is page structure first, because again, it's pages that rank, so documents, and that is what we want to optimize first, because that's the entry point. So page structure, which has a number of elements, we can talk about that in a minute. Then there's site structure or overall site architecture. So that is how the site is developed in its entirety, how you stack content, like how you arrange content into an organized fashion. So that it's logical and the hierarchy is correct. So there's page structure first, and then site structure and internal linking. And I say there's three elements, but really site structure and internal linking are kind of parallel as item number two. So page structure is always the starting point, but then it's site structure and internal linking, which are kind of combined in all reality. And that is so that, again, then within page structure alone, there's multiple kind of data points. The biggest, what I like to call the biggest optimization points are the optimization points that provide the most leverage, right? So what we can optimize, and I've been trying over the last 2 years to reduce the amount of workload that I'm required to do in order to achieve results. And so I'm trying to simplify everything in my business, because I feel like as SEOs, we overcomplicate everything all the time. We always like come up with some elaborate silo structure for some stupid like local business website, and it's like, do you think this will perform? I get people that ask me, and I'm not picking on my students, but it's just because we think we're going to outsmart Google sometimes by just having some elaborate kind of configuration. And you know what? Simplify. Keep it simple, stupid. You know what I mean? Like the KISS method is so much better. If we can convey very clearly, very quickly, in an efficient manner to Google who the business is, what they do, and where they do it, then we can significantly reduce our workload. And so why do we go through all that trouble of developing these large kind of site maps and like with graphics and all this? Anyway, so what I found is that page structure, there's the most important elements there. And when I talk about like how to optimize for this kind of stuff, like I said, I'm always looking at the optimization points that produce the biggest performance gains with the least amount of work. And one thing that I can tell you and your audience right now is content for local SEO is one of the least important things. And that is not a joke. If you learn how to optimize for topics and categories the way that I'm describing, page structure and the big elements of the page, not content. Content is like the least important thing of the page, and that's not a joke, man. So the URL is always the first point, right? So the URL, how is the URL optimized? Because that is the first touch point. That's how Google found the page to begin with. The URL is always the first point of page structure, right? The first element, first component. So URL, don't over optimize that. I always recommend de-optimizing the URL. Make it succinct and short to just provide the essence of what this page is without duplicating SEO terms or keywords within I see that all the time where it says, city pest control is the domain name, or it might be like Tom's pest control or something's in the domain, but then it's / pest control city, then / pest control city, it's pest control city / termite control. And it's like there's so many keywords in the URL that by the time you get to whatever the lowest level is, there's like 4 keywords stuffed into the URL. That's dumb. Don't do that. You don't need to do that anymore. Again, years ago that worked. Now that's a negative ranking factor. So URL is always the first starting point, first touch point. Number 2 is the SEO title. That's the meta title, the document title. All 3 of those mean the same thing. Okay, so the SEO title is next. That, in my opinion, is the most important place. But, well, let me rephrase that. The SEO title or meta title, document title, all 3 mean the same thing. And the H1, which is the page title. The H1 is that big title that's usually at the top of the page. That is the page title. That I see SEOs all the time that duplicate the exact same title in the SEO title as they do the H1. No, don't do that. You don't need to do that anymore. So optimize for the first top level category and or topic term in the SEO title, and then use the other one. If you optimize for the top level category in the SEO title, then use the top level topic term in the H1, or vice versa. You can interchange them. By the way, some of your audience may know this, some might not, but Google will return when you do a search query and the search results come up. So the blue links, those are the SEO titles, or they should be. That's what Google is displaying as the SEO title. But Google chooses what they want to display as the SEO title. Just because you designate the SEO title as whatever you designate it as doesn't mean Google's going to display that. Google will sometimes display an H1 as the SEO title. Sometimes, in rare cases, I've even seen it display the first H2 as the SEO title, or the search results title, if that makes sense. So why I bring that up is because you can rearrange the top level topic term and or category term in either the SEO title or the H1. You can rearrange them or swap them out, transpose them, whatever you want to do, and just really depending on your kind of preference. So like in my industry, the top level category is tree service, but then the top level topic term is tree maintenance, believe it or not. And I've talked to a lot of tree guys that say, well, nobody searches for tree maintenance. Yeah, you're missing the point. Tree maintenance has the broadest topic coverage. I can rank one page for every single search query associated with the tree service business industry if I optimize for tree service and tree maintenance, those two top level terms, category and topic. If I optimize the SEO title and the H1 and I usually do tree service in the SEO title and tree maintenance in the H1, I can rank that one page for every single search query, even if it's not on the page. And so again, back to page structure, we start with URL, then the SEO title, then the next is the page title, which is H1. Then there's headings. Headings are H2s. And then there's subheadings, which are H3s, 4s, and 5s. And the hierarchy is, and this is back to basic on-page 101, like on-page optimization 101, like seriously, on-page SEO for dummies. Like go buy that book. Because we as SEOs like when the internet was early, search engine optimization was young, immature, kind of a newer type of thing, then page structure with proper HTML markup, so headings and proper use of headings and subheadings, etc., was very, very important. But over the years, it became less important, and web designers started using H tags, headings, as a way to style elements of a page. But now that it's back to category or what's called entity-based SEO, topic and category-based SEO, page structure and proper use of HTML markup is absolutely critical. It has kind of reemerged as being critically important. And so going back to what I was saying with page structure, like I can rank a page right now with very little content almost exclusively with just proper page structure, which like I want to test, I have not yet. I want to test ranking a page with nothing but headings and images, no content at all, no written content other than the headings themselves, headings and subheadings. So anyways, why I bring all that up is because if you understand how the proper hierarchy of headings, then you have the H1, which is the page title. So that's heading 1, page title. Then you have headings, which are H2s. So like, for example, in the pest control service, in the pest control industry, a location page should be optimized for pest control service in the SEO title. And in pest control or some variant of that, whatever we determine is the top level topic term in the H1. And then going back to that example that I've used already today, where I said termite control, ant control, roach control, and spider control. Let's just say those are the 4 services offered. Those would each be in H2 then, because those are headings. So those are the services that fall under that pest control service category, the individual services. Then H3s, 4s, and 5s are subheadings. So if there's any supporting data for any one of those headings, the H3s, 4s, and 5s should support their respective H2s. The H2s should support the H1. The H1 should support the document title. And so don't use HTML elements to style content. Don't do that. Use HTML elements to tell Google, to convey to Google what this page is about in a very clear way. Look, Google for local SEO, I'm telling you, Google is not crawling the page and reading the content. It's not. It's looking at the big elements of the page. Everything I just mentioned, URL, SEO title, H1, headings and subheadings. That's what it's looking at. And like, I don't know if we're going to run out of time anyways, but I took as an example a couple of weeks ago, and I've showed this on Hump Day Hangouts, etc. I just took a page, a WordPress page that I published with just an SEO title H1, 2 H2s, and then a couple of H3s under each H2 with no additional content, no images or nothing. I ran it through Google's natural language API so that Google could tell us what topical categories it's identified in that on that page, and it identified exactly what I wanted, like with no content at all, just headings. And it came back and said, "This is what this page is about." And so it proves, using Google's own data, its own API, natural language API. I know for a fact that Google is not really reading the content now. And this is all as it relates to local, guys. Again, in other types of SEO like e-com and blogs and national times type of stuff, maybe that's not the case. But in local, I'm telling you, Google is just looking at the big elements of the page to identify and determine what the page is about. Then, so that's page structure, right? Optimize that properly. Then site structure and internal linking is about the other pages on the site, not having redundancy, not having duplication, all of that. And then how you interlink the pages so that it's clear to Google and to a visitor on how to navigate to the appropriate page on the site. So that's why I say it's better to have a local page, a supporting location page when you're in a service area business setting that you optimize for top level topics or categories. And then you have an H2 that says, we provide the following services in, and you repeat the city and state or whatever. And then underneath that, those are H3s that then link to the respective service pages, because now that's perfectly logical for Google. When Google crawls the page, it's looking at headings and subheadings, and now the subheadings are links that follow to the respective pages that then flesh out and spell out very clearly the service for termite control, ant control, roach control, and spider control, each separate page. But you don't need to have that language on the location page. You don't need to have 13 paragraphs that explain very thoroughly each one of those services. All you need to do is satisfy the intent of the searcher, which is who you are, how to contact you, and if they need more information about one of those particular services, here's how to get to that page. Google does the same thing. It crawls the page and it says, okay, very clear, very logically, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is where we do it. And then if you need to know more information about any one of these services, the Googlebot crawls and then spiders and says, okay, this is the service page. That makes sense. So again, those three elements, page structure, site structure, internal linking. If you get those three things done right, if you nail those three things, then all other SEO efforts become a lot easier. You need far less content, far fewer pages, and far fewer backlinks because you have less overall pages. And but besides that, if you do the internal linking properly, then it doesn't matter which page you build links to, because it's going to distribute out through the internal links of that page to the other related relevant pages on the site. And so again, it's a very, very kind of I think, like, back to your question a few minutes, several minutes ago now, you said, how do you think it's easier now than it used to be? Well, because now, 3 years ago, I would have had, in that example, 4 services, 5 locations, I would have had 20 pages, and all 20 pages would have had 1,500 to 2,000 words of content. So we would have had to develop all that content. We would have had to publish all those pages, add images and all that stuff. And now it's like, I go in and I don't really mess with other industries except for when I'm consulting. But in the tree service industry, I know there's 4 main services that we target every single time. And then I do a particular site structure where we have 5 locations. And so we have 10 pages, homepage, 4 service pages, and 5 location pages. And then contact about, the privacy policy, the normal standard pages. But we have literally 10 content pages on my tree service sites now. And I can rank those sites. I mean, I've got examples of sites in low competition areas with 0 backlinks. We rank number 1 in organic search for every single search query with no backlinks. Because again, it's all about page structure, site structure, and internal linking. If you get that right, everything else becomes easier, and it reduces our workload. It will reduce the cost requirements for content and links and everything else.
So awesome, man. Love that. Yeah, basically what I'm getting from this is that you shouldn't necessarily be trying to optimize for Google, like don't have a ton of pages, stop trying to like stuff keywords, but help Google understand and make it as simple as possible for Google to understand.
That's right.
I mean, it makes complete sense when you think about it from Google's perspective. Like they want to be able to crawl your site, know exactly what it's about. When you're a local business, know exactly where you are, what services you provide, make it very clear for them. So that makes complete sense. Yeah.
Well, and then kind of just a wrap up on that is I like to use this kind of visualization, like illustrate something that you can visualize. And that is Google develops a knowledge graph. Okay. So for each local business, and that is what Google's understanding is of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. I like to use that kind of statement because in the semantic web, you want to feed data into Google or the semantic web engine in semantic triplet format, which is subject, object, predicate, right? And like in layman's terms, that's who you are, what you do, and where you do it. That's why I always say it that way, because it's easier for people to grasp. And I'm not an English major, so I was not an English major. I was an electrician. So, but if we can convey that very clearly to Google, and so that they develop an understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it, then it makes everything else easier because Google rewards it when it has a good understanding. So, what is a knowledge graph? Well, a good analogy would be like when a business first launches or creates a presence within Google, Google has a vague understanding of that business, a very vague understanding, and it has to, through its own devices, Google has to go out and try to find corroborating evidence online that supports or reinforces or validates that data about what Google's vague understanding of who that business is, what they do, and where they do it. And so if you leave Google on its own to try to develop that knowledge graph, then it can take a long, long time before it's very clear. So it's similar to a jigsaw puzzle. Like if you buy a puzzle, you know from looking at the box what the image is supposed to be. But when you dump that out onto a table, when you first buy it, you dump it out onto a table, it is just a bunch of scattered puzzle pieces. It doesn't look like anything until you start organizing those pieces and fitting them together. And as you start to do that, a picture starts to emerge. And as you get more and more pieces in and put together in the proper way, fitted together right, then that image becomes clearer or sharper. It's the exact same thing with Google's knowledge graph for a local business. Google has no idea at first. It has a very vague understanding because of how the GBP was optimized as to who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. But if we as SEOs can very quickly help to inform the knowledge graph, in other words, can we help Google develop that knowledge graph, that understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it? So yes, we can. We can absolutely do that. And one of the ways we can do that is by, again, forcing Google to recognize, like by providing URLs, for example, like going out and extracting, like creating business directory listings, citations, etc., publishing content, press releases, things like that, that then are providing accurate information about who the business is, what they do, and where they do it. We can extract all those URLs and put them in strategic places that then forces Google to recognize that and put all those puzzle pieces together very quickly. And now Google has a very clear understanding of who the business is, what they do, and where they do it, which is why it rewards those types of businesses. So we as SEOs are puzzle builders, I guess. You know what I mean? Like we should be putting the puzzle pieces together to help Google have that understanding in a much quicker way so that our clients will benefit from that. And that's what I teach is essentially like how to help Google make, how we can help Google develop that knowledge graph.
Awesome. Yeah, 100%. Well, I know you have to go, Bradley, but that was a super valuable podcast. I'm so grateful for your time. And quickly, is there anything you'd like to plug? Like, where can people learn more from you and potentially work with you?
Yeah, we have a free weekly webinar. Actually, yesterday was our 500th episode. No kidding. Yesterday was our 500th episode. So we're 20 episodes away from being our 10-year anniversary. But we do a weekly Q&A webinar about search and local SEO. Every single Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern. It's called Hump Day Hangouts. And so you can just go to semanticmastery.com/HDHO and you can pre-post questions. There's a question form there. You can watch the replay from whatever the most current replay is always on that page. There's also a question form. There's also an AI Bradley. We had an AI version of me trained where you can ask me questions, and it's been trained on 10 years of me answering questions in Hump Day Hangouts. So you will literally get my own voice answering. Like me answering your question is just from AI database stuff. But so on that page again, semanticmastery.com/HDHO, you can ask questions. You can pre-post questions for me to answer live on the next mastermind webinar. You can watch the previous one, but that's it. I don't have anything else to pitch. I just encourage you guys, if you have any questions about local SEO, please come ask. I love doing those. Been doing it for almost 10 years, and happy to have you come on and ask questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again, Bradley. And yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the time, Danny. I appreciate it, man.
Yeah, man. Thank you.